There's so much conflict and turbulence and misinformation and fear spreading around right now. And even nature is retaliating with the Hurricane Helene. How can we understand what spirit is inviting us to understand at this time? Hilary Harley is with us to share astrological insights into our nation's Pluto return, that 240-year Pluto return, as well as both candidates to see how we can make sense of the right decision to make at this time. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire together like our ancestors did before us, and we share our stories of connection and that which is greater than us, the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. We are so grateful to be able to have these conversations, to have internet, to have power, to have the ability to talk across the country to each other. And at such a time as this, at the time of the Great Awakening. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and you know I love having these conversations week after week. And what was on my heart this week was the madness we are experiencing in our country. The sort of storms, Hurricane Helene and the damage done and people's feelings and thoughts about why that might be. And then, of course, we throw in the election and we've got all this stress and chaos and people's clashing over opinions that they believe are capital T truth. And there is so much, hostility and projections back and forth and contentiousness. And, as I have been feeling into this myself, I've been looking at my shamanic tools. I've been looking at my shamanic wisdom to see what is the correlation between all of these things. And I was curious about the astrological correlation. And so I invited my friend Hilary Harley to come back. Welcome, Hilary.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be here.
Yes, I love your wisdom. As you guys know, Hilary came to us at the end of 2022, and you guys loved her episode, before we got into 2023, the predictions for 2023. And that was a very highly watched episode. You guys loved what she had to say there. So I thought, well, I'll invite Hilary back. And luckily she happened synchronistically to be completely available when I thought of it. It was meant to be. We were meant to talk to her. So it's just meant to be. I'm so glad. Hilary also has a Reiki Master certification. She's got an Akashic Record certification. So she does a lot of work with astrology with people. She has her own podcast, Mystical Messages. She's got monthly astrology forecasts. So if you're into this kind of thing, tune into Hilary and check it out. She's practiced Kundalini yoga for 30 years. She's a member of the National Council for Geocosmic Research, a professional organization for astrologers. This is her jam. So we're going to hear some awesome insights and wisdom. And if you want her to look at your chart and walk you through your stuff, she can do that. That's her expertise. So look her up. The information's in the show notes below. Check it out. So I kind of set us up for this conversation, Hilary. I've been applying my shamanic knowledge, to figure out what's going on here. I have my own ideas about it. But what are you seeing from the stars? What are the stars telling us? What's the alignment of this astrology telling us about what's going on in this world today? We've got all this Middle East stuff going on. We've got this stuff going on in our country for the elections. We've got all this conflict. I say this stuff, I mean conflict, wars, hatred, genocide, get out of our way, plus natural disasters. Like, take your pick. I don't know where you want to start. It's a lot to ask you why it's happening. Why is this happening to us?
A buffet of angst.
A buffet of angst. And I feel it. I don't know if you feel it. It's like so anxious making, and it's just like, it's exhausting. And
it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of tumultuousness, chaos.
Yeah. So I think the way to break it down is to take it planet by planet. So we, right now, all of us are experiencing the final crescendo swan song of Pluto in Capricorn. So Pluto is the transformer, and it's about our desires. And what we desire, that's how we transform and evolve. So Pluto, for the past, since 2008, has been moving through Capricorn, which is about structure. And Pluto is like the bulldozer. It goes through our lives individually or collectively, and it unearths. Pulls up from underneath the rug what must be seen. So if you think about mythology, Pluto was the god of the underworld, and it deals with the shadow. So lots of shadow work. And Capricorn is about structure. It's the builder. So when Pluto meets Capricorn, it's deconstructing, literally, and it's very destabilizing. It's like all of the norms, the paradigms, everything the constructs that we have known, grown to know, are crumbling. And when a planet such as Pluto finishes, it takes, it's almost 20 years to go. It'll be 26 years at the end of this year that it's gone through the sign of Capricorn. It comes to this emphatic crescendo, is the only term I can really come up with. It's like, you will hear this. It's at the very final degree of Capricorn, and Capricorn is black and white, what works and what does not work. And when Pluto moves through this and comes to this huge crescendo, it will be heard, and it is being heard right now. So you think about in 2008, when Pluto started in Capricorn, we had the bank failures. We had the first Black president elected. So this is norm shattering, to say the least. And it's making its presence known right before the election, which is really interesting. And then shortly after the election, it moves into Aquarius. So I want you to consider what happened when Pluto entered Aquarius the last couple times. Elizabeth I came to the throne, which was a pretty big deal because it was the first woman in English history to reign over a very patriarchal system and society. And then in more recent, if you want to call it recent, in 1777 through 1798 were the American and the French revolutions, when Pluto was in Aquarius. So this was the last time. So to break it down, Aquarius is about the collective. It is the humanitarian. It is the greatest good. It is also the inventor, the innovator. It's radical, rebellious, non-mainstream. It is about the most forward-thinking ideas and concepts. It is the future, very futuristic. It is the final air sign. So it's the connector. It is technology. So for the past year or two, about 18 months, Pluto has been dancing back and forth between Capricorn, and as it's been finishing in Capricorn, and then this past year, it stuck its toe into Aquarius, and we saw Sam Bankman-Fried and crypto and some wonky things with Elon Musk and technology. And then it went back into Capricorn, and it said, okay, now we're going to have one last heave-ho with the things that really matter. And so we're looking at these long-term structures that are collapsing. So it is deadly serious at the final degree of any sign, but particularly Capricorn, which is like granite. It's the banking system. It's big business. It's government. And what's going on? People don't trust the government anymore. They don't know what to believe anymore. And so there is this emergence of all kinds of ideas. And that's where Pluto in Aquarius comes in. So what I would remind people is to stay grounded, grounding practices, radical self-care, watch your information content, and you want to take your information from vetted sources. So let's practice common sense. Going back to square one, it's not sexy, it's not glamorous, but it works.
You mean like TikTok might not be the best place to get your information from, or X platform, or social media, or memes?
Yeah. And Pluto
But they
in
don't. The problem
Aquarius.
is they don't trust the media either. So it's like, by the way, everyone, my brother is a news producer. So he actually is someone who produces the news, and he just produced like a debate in Seattle because he works at Seattle King 5 News. I know my brother. He's a person of integrity. He's a person who, when I was showing all the things to you originally, the videos and the conspiracy theories and all this kind of stuff, he was like, I can't even talk to you about this, because he's a trained news person.
Journalist, right?
He's a journalist. He vets information. He checks things. He fact checks things. That's his whole job, his whole life, and his whole passion. And so, yeah. So let's just say I have somebody very close to my heart who is in the news. Not all news is equal. We'll also say that, right? Like, not all news is equal.
Right.
But it's kind of like what you're saying is, when we don't trust something, then because Capricorn is so black and white, we want to just throw the whole thing out, like throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, none of this is trustworthy. It's absolutely all false. And this is all true. And then that just feeds into this Republican Democrat thing, which is black and white. It's like, you have to pick a side. I mean, I had somebody say to me, because I said I was pro-choice. They said, well, then you're pro getting vaccinated. And I said, no, my body, my choice means like every single decision.
Right.
It's not like, just because I'm pro-choice for women to make her own choice doesn't mean that I'm pro-vaccine. So let's actually separate these conversations and have a little refinement. We don't have to be all one way or all the other. And that's kind of, I guess, people who are really geared that way already are in these buckets, and they can't get themselves out to see that there's actually like a spectrum. Is that kind of like energetically what's happening, as people are really being forced into their corners if they're black and white thinking?
1,000%. And I will add that there's also the recognition by males. There's a huge awareness among very traditionally voting males, white, black, doesn't really matter, that they recognize that if they're going to be anti-vax, people, or choosing which vax they're going to partake in, they have made the leap of understanding, oh, a woman might need an abortion, for a medically based reason, and not just so she won't have a child that is inconveniencing her. So there is actually a beginning of understanding across lines, and that is a ray of hope. So let's hold on to that, because to not be able to extrapolate it from vaccine to my body, my choice with abortion, that sort of baffles me. I don't really understand why.
It's a perplexing thing, right? Like, if you're with this bucket, then you don't let yourself be vaccinated, but you have no choice over your body with a baby.
Yeah.
And in this bucket, you have a choice with a baby, but they want you to be vaccinated.
Correct.
And they don't want you to have a choice with that. It's like, no, I don't. I have Carrie's rule, my body, my choice. It applies to all decisions.
That's a pretty basic, elementary, norm to practice.
Say more about this, like, because this kind of urge to be in one camp or the other is part of this either or energetic that's happening, right?
Correct. The black and white of Pluto's swan song in Capricorn is definitely the entrenched black and white. The conspiracy theories that are proliferating right now are impelled by, the stars impel, they don't compel, nothing makes us do something, but it's like, ooh, you might want to consider this. It's like a divine inspiration or thought-provoking impel that is happening. And so Saturn is in Pisces right now, as is Neptune. Neptune is in its own sign of Pisces. So Pisces is water, big water, and that's the hurricane. Then we have the conspiracy theories, which are both Saturn and Neptune are challenging. If you think of two boxers in a ring, they're going at it with Jupiter in Gemini. That is big information. So the Pisces piece where Saturn and Neptune are is illusion, delusion, disillusionment. And when it butts heads with big information, you get wild theories about all kinds of things. And that is not going away till later in 2025, about spring of 2025. These elements are clashing. So this is why it's even more important to really find information that you know is reliable from a reliable source, been vetted, ground yourself, radical self-care, rest, a lot of rest, hydration right now, because we're being bombarded, solar flares and more.
Yeah. So in other words, to me, like a Piscean person is somebody who's really open and dreamy and susceptible to not only dreaming big dreams into being, but also dealing with delusional thoughts. And
Yeah.
so that kind of person especially needs to be wary of delusional thoughts and bring it back down into like reality. Like when you talk to your neighbor, does it seem when you talk to your neighbor like they would be eating dogs and cats? This is the kind of thing I'm saying. Like that, does that seem reasonable to anyone? But that went viral. That just exploded. Right. And everyone was so certain that these people, now I'm going to bring it to you on this topic that's close to my heart, which is unhealed national wounds. So we have a lot of unhealed wounds in this country that are tied up with religion. Okay. So what I'm going to say is going to be painful for some people to hear, but you know, this country was founded on Christian or religious conquerors. So those things seem like they don't go together, but they did, and they still do. And so Christian colonization happened where European Christians came to this country to take it over from the indigenous people that were living here. So that's one layer that has not been unpacked fully. And then secondly, brought over slaves because somehow in the ideology that they created in their minds, it was okay to enslave people to be their workers, right? And their unpaid workers and tortured. So there's that whole slavery conversation for people that are Native American and or because some Native Americans also practice this, by the way. So there's tangled. And then also African Americans, right, who came. So as our country was establishing itself the last time Pluto was in this energetic, right, and saying we are for freedom, simultaneously enslaving large groups of people and committing genocide and taking away everything that they owned to own it themselves, right? So there's the irony is thick, you know?
So just as there's an astrological chart for each of us, there's also an astrological chart for the United States. July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence. It has a time, it has a date, it has a location. And Pluto has taken 240 years to go around this chart. And it takes a longer time, you know, versus like your solar return, which you have every birthday. You know, the sun has come back to its original spot the day you were born. Pluto has come back to its original spot. And you are correct. Pluto, because it's the bulldozer, the excavator, it is pulling up all of this stuff for us to look at. Now, individuals don't have a Pluto return because we don't live for 240 years. But if you look at other nations, the charts of nations or corporations, you can see that they have gook, that they have, for lack of a technical term, to look at when they have their Pluto return. And so in Capricorn, it's literally black and white. So that is African and Caucasian. It is male and female. And here we are with literal examples of this happening. A white male, a black Indian female. running for president, and all of the issues and the religious issues, certainly, that have not been resolved or solved since the birth of our nation.
And so what we see with Trump is we see he's the white man, billionaire, right? He's the wealthy white guy, which is the founder of this country. Okay. So back to the beginning of Pluto. And at the return, our other candidate, Kamala Harris, is of African American descent and Indian descent. But let's focus on the African American descent for a moment. In the fact that now it's a African American woman who has been at the bottom of the color ladder, established back when our forefounders established this country, with white men at the top, Black women at the bottom. And so we have this reversal of power. So what I noticed is that people who are evangelical or fundamental, I'm not going to say all evangelicals, but a lot of evangelicals, because I live in the South, you guys, so I'm around this stuff.
Right.
A lot of evangelicals and those who call themselves MAGA and those who are for this whole thing are siding with Trump. Well, that to me, if we look at the whole history of the Pluto returns, feels like a defense of the patriarchal system that founded this country, defending it. And they'll even say, we want to go make America great again. Again, for who? Has it ever been great for African-American women? That's debatable. Or women, period. Right? So there's like a defense of this model. And then in the other camp, we have people who are like, everyone should have the right to happiness. Anybody can be president, even the person that previously was slated at the bottom rung. And by the way, we don't want to do ladders anymore. We'd rather do circles. We'd rather everybody be responsible. We'd rather have horizontal, not vertical. So it's also vertical. We like this vertical thing where white men are on top and everybody's on the bottom, or horizontal. We like this thing where everybody's equal.
Exactly. I would even add spiral. If you think of a horizontal spiral, that is what we're really moving through right now. And ideally, we're going to be shedding and healing through awareness and greater attention to what needs to be healed, what needs to be seen, first of all, and then healed. And people who are great surgeons have strong Plutos in their chart. So, or strong Scorpio placements, because they open up and they go in and they fix, they repair, they take a hard look. Great psychologists, great detectives have strong Pluto or Scorpio placements. Pluto rules Scorpio. And so it's the fearlessness of looking underneath, and attention and awareness is 90%, and then taking action and remedying what has gone before to heal it is the other 10%.
I love that you're saying this, because just so in case I ever trigger anybody, you guys, I have 12th house, Scorpio and Pluto. Hi. Love you all. I'm the collective revealer of what needs to be healed. Hi. I'm just sharing it. It's obvious for me to see it. I always am surprised that other people can't see it, but it's like, you can't see this? Like, it's really obvious to me. It's blatant, but for others, it's not. So I feel like I have to say these things that they'll go, how could you say that thing? I'm just telling you what my placement is here to show us. Like, we have not done the healing work. We have not healed this. And, some people will say, well, there's Black people that support Trump. Yes, there were also house, slaves that like their placement, so let's just be clear. That doesn't mean anything. Just because somebody chose that and they have a certain skin, this is still unhealed. We're still operating in the paradigm. Like, until we actually heal it, we are still operating in the paradigm.
Right. And
we have to get out of that. We have to clear it.
Precisely. And I would also add, there's, if you really look at the conflict, really deeply conflicted founding fathers, where they were creating a revolution of something that had never existed on this planet before, of equality, is based on the French premise, egalitarian, égalité, fraternité, and yet they were slaveholders. So
and Christian. Which
we're
Christianity says don't do that, right? Like Jesus says, treat your neighbor as you would treat yourself. Like all the major religions say, we don't do this.
right, right. So, this is what now we have no excuse because we do have all this information, all this education, all this technology. Will we avail ourselves of it? Will we really live in a new earth with adhering to humanitarian, what is best for all of us, that horizontal playing field that you're talking about?
And you were talking before you came on that we can not only look at the cycles of our nation's history, right? Because we have the birthplace and time of this Constitution, the thing that we've been very inspired to call forth, right? And Pluto said, well, you're not quite there yet. Here's some more work you got to do before you actually get there. And we have a choice if we're going to dig into that work or not. So we just covered that piece. But as souls, as individuals, we also have the chart. We also have our own chart that we
Correct.
may or may not completely fulfill. And so you were looking up the chart of each of our candidates. I actually looked them up in the gene keys.
Right.
And so talk a little bit about the unfulfilled potentials and where you think people are in their chart. Like what was the potential of each chart? Like what was the potential leader that each of these candidates could have been? And then where's some of the points of question? Like, have they actually got to that place yet?
Okay, so let's talk about Kamala first because she's actually easier. Her birthday's coming up. It's October 20th. And she is born of a generation, as am I. We're both 1964. And the 60s were, if you think of 1960 versus 1969, they were two worlds apart. And she was smack dab in the middle of that. So it is the workhorse generation. It is also the helicopter generation, but it's the service generation. And she is here as a servant. And her chart sings. It is one of those charts you look at and it's like, wow, she would be a success in any field, anytime, anywhere. It would be hard for her to really not want to strive to be the best she can be. Part of that is this Virgo piece. She was born with Pluto, Uranus in Virgo. I believe she also has Mercury in Virgo. And so there is this heavy lifting. It's what's efficient. It is the service generation. So she is a workaholic and she'll do anything she can to be of service to wherever she's called. And all of those Virgo placements for her happen to be in the fourth house, which is home, homeland, nation. It's also mother. And it's interesting that she is not a mother. She is a stepmother, but this is what she's been called to do. It's like she's got this universal, whether you agree with this or not, her chart is of a universal mother. So she was an advocate, prosecuting victims of sexual harassment or sexual crimes. And that is a very nurturing and noble profession. That's how she chose to rise through the ranks as an attorney. So do you have any questions about that before I go on?
Yeah, I actually want to say, like, in the gene keys, she's got her life's work. So we all have our life's work key, which points to the work that we're actually here to do. And hers, interestingly enough, is to move through corruption. Okay. So, we just talked about how everything's corrupted. To move through corruption to bring equilibrium and to bring harmony. And her chart, it says, just briefly, I just want to say, at a social level, if you're this person, Kamala, you have enormous power and potential in life. Your gift is to bring harmony into any group that you are in, whether that be your family, a business, or your whole entourage. The key for you is to work with others because it is through you that others can find a unified bond. This kind of work, whether official or hidden, is taking our world into a new future where humankind will one day realize its inherent oneness. You hold a vital aspect of this vision of integration. Wherever you are open and honest in your intentions, You will find that people immediately trust you. You can pull any group together. All groups or families have their differences that can be ironed out and integrated, and you will find that you have a natural understanding of this process. If your vision is strong and you persevere in giving others the gift of your trustworthiness, remarkable things can happen around you. I'm sold, like right there.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I
there's
think that's
that.
what we need.
Yeah. So you're really quoting chapter and verse her Libra sun. Her sun is in Libra. It's late degree Libra. So there's a culmination. Whenever you have a natal chart that's at a final degree, it's just what I was talking about with Pluto in this final degree of Capricorn right now that we're all experiencing. She has her Libra sun in the sign of balance, harmony, beauty, peace, mediation, negotiation. And it's aligning to her Saturn in Aquarius, which is the humanitarian, which her Saturn's in the ninth house of the law. Did it mean she was going to become a lawyer? No. There are lots of different ways she could have worked with this. She could have been a chef. She could, because of all of that placements with in the fourth house of home, family, food. She could have been a social worker. She could have been an artist. She could have been an advocate, which she is, by peripheral. But it's almost like, Jose, I can't remember his name, Jose Andres, the World Kitchen chef. It's that same quality. This is grand scale advocacy that she's doing.
And in contrast to that, so I mean, just saying, in contrast to that, and Kim and I talked about doing some videos talking about this Gene Keys chart comparison, because we're just talking about one key. There's 11 keys. Okay. But this key is important because it's their life's work.
Right.
And so what you were talking about earlier with Trump's like potentials that he might not have fully manifested. He kind of turned a corner and went some other way. But in his life's work, he's a line 3 changer. So the important thing to realize about line 3s is that they try a bunch of stuff. They fail at a bunch of stuff. And he's got failure in his chart like 3 times. And then they figure out what works and they keep moving forward. But their incarnation is about just, sort of like turbulence, chaos, figuring stuff out. And actually his life's work is turbulence. So he creates turbulence. The reason I know this is because my eldest son also has the 36 of turbulence. They have many keys in common. So I can speak to this. It is a very palpable field of instability that a person like this has. They create a natural turbulence within themselves. And if they don't move through that shadow, they don't get to the gift, which is humanity. So the turbulence is made to shake you up so that your ego gets shaken up, so that your heart opens and you care about people. Like that's the whole point. Your heart opens and you care not just about some people, not just about yourself, but everybody. That is the gift, is humanity. And the high frequency is compassion. So let's look at somebody who, I will go and just verify this, but let's say the Dalai Lama, that's compassion. Just so if anybody is not really understanding the difference, the Dalai Lama is compassion.
Mm-hmm. I would like to speak to the turbulence piece because this is really up. We're all feeling the turbulence and the chaos. I mean, I've been around for 60 years. I cannot remember. I mean, I was born of a generation that was extremely turbulent, but I was too little to remember it. What the beauty, if we can call it that, the service, let's call it the service of Donald Trump's turbulence, is that he has made so many waves. He is forcing us to look at things we refused to look at. So sweeping under the rug in a major way, all the years of our history, with perhaps the exception of the Civil War, sweeping things under the rug, not wanting to look at them. Don't look at that. Everything's fine. Look over here with the distractions of we're building this American empire. And now the buck stops here. Pluto at the final degree of Capricorn. And his gift, if we can call it that, is forcing us to be uncomfortable and looking hard at at the things that we're really, I mean, he's the definition, in my opinion, of the ugly American. And we are really he is the shadow of the American. Each president, their chart, there goes the country. I mean, it is a symbolic chart representation of our American collective consciousness. And he is representing that, whether we like it or not. So he's making us uncomfortable. And that to me is a good thing. And the change that can come out of it, hopefully, there's a phrase, you either stagnate or grow. And we can go back. I mean, we do have that choice to stick with the patriarchal system, but we know that no longer works. And instead, we have this invitation to go with a woman, somebody completely young, energetic, service-oriented, an advocate for our nation.
Yeah. And since I read Kamala's life's work, I'll read Trump's. It says, this is Trump's life's work of turbulence. Your life's work will most surely revolve around communicating with people. You are here to dive deeply into life and allow it to temper you and constantly reshape you. When you are young, this may seem hard as you may lack the experience to understand what is happening to you and why. Your real work is to let life's lessons open your heart rather than close you down. Know that nothing happens by chance and that every event that occurs in your life has some deep lesson for you to learn. Collectively, these experiences, especially the more intense and challenging ones, will prepare you for your true work, sharing what you have learned with others in a meaningful way. Mm-hmm. None of that says anything about bringing people together or leading.
No.
It's an individual focused life's work that he communicates and he's a sage. He represents to us. And, according to the Michael archetypes of Jose Stevens, that he was part of defining those, he's like a king energy. So he has this big presence, but he's not a fully mature king. I think we can all agree. He's like a toddler king. I want what I want when I want it, and I'm going to demand it. So he's not fully baked. Would he be an awesome king in another lifetime once he's learned all these lessons and he's made all these failures and mistakes and he's big? Yes, probably. Once he's actually been brought through the turbulence into humanity. When his heart opens with humanity, it can flower into compassion. And when you have compassion for other people, you would do anything for them. Mm-hmm. You would actually not just say it, but do it. And that's the difference is he's just kind of, I'm only for you if you're for me. That's not humanity.
Correct. Yeah. I want to touch on a couple things that you mentioned. You said the word sage, and it's interesting because he was born with the moon and the north node, the whole directional calling in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is the sage. It's the teacher. It's the Hierophant. Leo, he was born with an ascendant, his rising sign, and Mars in Leo. And that is incredibly creative. But when it doesn't reach full maturity, it is the toddler. So that was really prescient that you said that. The other piece that I just want to mention is he was born with Saturn and Jupiter challenging each other, really dug in, going at it like two boxers in a ring. And that, there are very famous people who are born with that angle. One of them is Paul Newman. And you think about what Paul Newman did, it's a mark of, or a challenge to transcend. You have these two titans, Saturn, which is the taskmaster, Jupiter, which is the Santa Claus of the zodiac, and they are going at it hard. And the question for the individual is, are they going to take the lesson seriously? Are they going to hearken to the challenge and rise to the occasion? Or are they going to always go the easy way out? And so this we can see where Trump has really had an invitation to rise to the occasion. And whether or not, in your opinion, he's succeeded at that, yeah, he could be sunbathing on the beach or golfing. He's using his turbulence to stir us up, though.
So there's, so there's a design to all of this, right? So we can see, we've pointed out like a lot of the metaphors. Whenever we work in spiritual work and certainly in shamanism, we're looking at the archetypal energies. What are the archetypal energies and how are those archetypal energies moving through a person or moving through a collective? And so we've just talked about lots of different archetypal energies that are moving through. And so when we have these energies combined, we also, in shamanic practice, we go, well, that was the medicine that was needed. So in no way, shape, or form am I saying that his medicine's not needed. But what I'm asking is, do you still need it? Or are you going to listen and work together to resolve these things? Because part of what's going on is, and just from sage, just as a person, also a sage, teacher, mentor, I'm here to teach and guide. And I'm here to bring people through the shadows. Like I'm here to bring through people at 12th house with Scorpio and Pluto. Wounded healer, Chiron is right in the mix. I'm here to help us all heal this stuff. And we can go the easy way or the hard way. I can guarantee going with Trump again this time is the hard way. We're going to have more turbulence, more fighting. We're going to have to see the lesson in a bigger way in order to get it, which means it's going to be painful. Right. It's going to be more of the carpet ripped out from underneath you. There's going to be more war between men and women, more of the polarities, right? That black-white thing will just keep going on. This is a choice point. Do we want the black and white? We want to keep fighting this old war. We want to keep, battling each other. We want to keep saying, you're the devil, I'm the angel. Do we really want to keep having that conversation? Or do we want to go, these are all human beings. We need to come together. We need to have a talking stick circle. We need to hear from each other. We need to work it out with each other. We need a leader like Kamala to do that part. He can't do it. He's the black and white conversation. Yeah. That's what he's leading. He's leading I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm going to show you. And we're going to end up with more wars and chaos that way. We can just look at it. That's turbulence. Or we have somebody who's designed to bring us together. And this is in the charts, so we have a choice. I know what choice I'm making, but I'm only one vote. So I prefer the easy way. It's hard. It's still hard. We still have to come together, right, Hilary? It's not easy. We still have to come together. We have to research. We can't ban the books we don't want to read.
Oh, thank you for saying that. No, that was all very, very, very well said and astute. And yeah, I mean, it's no different in our own lives when we repeat certain patterns. It's like, okay, if you don't get it the first time, the universe will send you a 2x4. You don't get it the second time, you get a bigger 2x4. The third time, you get an earthquake and a 2x4.
And a hurricane wiping
and
out.
A hurricane.
Which I can't help myself. I am going to throw this in there. Akeem and I are in the process of developing this new series called Embodying the Elements, because in all shamanic traditions across the whole earth, we know that working with the elements is really important. And understanding how they work is super important. And so one key element we all need to understand is the interaction between wind and water.
Oh, yeah.
So when wind puts a little fire in it and go conflict and just douses it with gas and everyone's fighting back and forth and you're the devil and you're this and that. And then one group of people is sitting there praying for the end of the world. And, the day of judgment, the end of the world, God's going to come down and kill all these other people and save me. And I'm just going to say that's been happening in that area. Yeah. The water responds to the wind.
1,000%.
The water goes, okay.
Right. And, that's what's really right in front of us in an unmistakable way. Like it's 2 inches beyond our nose. It's so close in a way that some people are having a hard time seeing it. This turbulence that is going on. And so it creates the need for safety. They just want somebody to take care of them and like a blankie to put over them. And that's, I think, also what's driving this need for the old and the secure, even though jobs are at a record, unemployment's at a record level, the stock market's at all of these forecasters. But it's like people are so afraid of the unknown because they've never had a woman or a minority leader.
Yeah. And so this is where we're at, you people. I love you so much, but it's tough medicine. That's what I'm here to deliver. It's the question of, do we want to take responsibility, number one, for how we use our words and the energy that we stir up in our fervent prayer inside our churches at the end of the world? you cannot deny that you had a hand in it. And so please, the water responds to the word. We are the power of the word. And not to say that everybody was aware of that, but I'm just making the invisible visible. We have to be careful of the word we use and how we use it and how the winds work the waters. And yeah, if we choose another president who's in his turbulence and he has not fully moved into compassion, then we're going to go along with him on the journey of compassion. We're going to go along with him on the journey. The whole frequency of the United States, because he's the leader, will be under the frequency of turbulence for another 4 years, because this man has not yet broken into humanity. And until he reaches humanity, we'll all be under the influence of turbulence.
Right.
And I'm not open. I don't like that idea personally. I want to be under the energy, of teamwork, unity, consensus building. I like building and growing and creating. I don't enjoy destroying everything. I prefer to build at this point. We've destroyed a lot.
Yeah. And I would just like to say the wind and the water example is incredibly accurate, because what I mentioned earlier with Saturn being in Pisces right now, water, and going toe to toe with Jupiter in Gemini, which is an air sign. There's your wind. So this is really in the mix. And the beauty of it is we can create our own reality. The question is, what does that reality look like? We know we become what we think and what we speak. And it is really, that message in particular is really timely, that our language it's like a spell that we cast, literally. I mean, this isn't woo or witchcraft. This is intention, invocation. And whether it's in church, in your home, at the car wash, it doesn't matter. But language is incredibly important. So to use your words very carefully.
Yeah. And it's really important to be mindful of these, to learn about the elements. If you've never heard that before about the water, about how wind and intention affects the water, go look up the work of Masaru Emoto. I'll put a link down there in the show notes. I posted on social about this other day and showed like a graphic that has different molecules of water. And you can see the sacred geometry in a molecule of water where the intention has been truth. Is this beautiful snowflake. It's just gorgeous because they freeze it and they make a snowflake so you can see the geometry of the water. He did thousands of experiments confirming this, and over and over and over again. All these people that he had do these experiments confirmed this is, and they published a book. I mean, it's very powerful research. And the whole point of that is to realize the impact we have. We're 70% water. So if we focus all of our thoughts on things like, I hate, or you make me sick, or I'm so angry, your water molecules look like a cesspool. And if you just see that image, you will decide that you don't want that in your body or on the planet. You want something that looks like truth, that has beautiful sacred geometry, that's balanced and just gorgeous. You want the pretty one. I want the pretty one. That is an amazing example. That you bring forward that book. Say his name again. I have that. Masaru Emoto. So Masaru and then Emoto. And it's really the secret life. It's the life of water. Where's that book?
Yeah. Is it Hidden Messages in Water? I have that book somewhere.
Messages from Water in the Universe.
Messages from Water in the Universe. Everybody should have
pictures
that.
In here. It's got like experiments, information about the experiments they did. It's this beautiful book. Here's like crystal formed after water was exposed to the words of love and gratitude in Japanese. Look at this.
Right. It's stunning.
That's what we want.
Right.
We want that.
And it also shows photos of crystals when negative thoughts.
Yeah, when you're like all thinking hateful thoughts, like we're going to end the whole earth and all this kind of stuff. Please, if you want to dream that for yourself into being, I guess you can, but that's not my preference. Yeah, here's a bunch. Oh, and it talks about cell phones and stuff like that too, like what our water molecules look like when we're exposed to technology even. So it's like a lot of the things that people are saying is true, But, we need, anyway, you guys get this book and go look at it, or just go look up his name, Masaru Emoto. Go look it up on the internet. You'll find all kinds of pictures. You can prove it to yourself. But that is important. We have to do that work at this time. We've got to start being more conscious. The training wheels are getting taken off, if you guys hadn't noticed. Like, we have instant manifestation. So, if you're going to be holy rolling and like calling in the end of the world and, and if you're going to use your word
that is so true.
The water is going to just swoop on in and hurricane that shit on out, and I'm just saying, please be mindful, let's, I don't want a bigger 2x4. I hope nobody else does that's listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hilary, for coming on. Thank you for bringing this and having this conversation with me. It's been on my heart, and I'm so grateful to have the astrological insights and all of that. And you see how awesome she is. So if you guys want your chart looked at, like, what does my future foretell? She can only tell you what the cycles are that are coming, but she can't tell you how you're going to meet those challenges. That's up to you.
Right.
So
free will. Anything
else you want to say about your messages, mystical messages, podcast or monthly astrological forecast?
Thanks. So mystical messages comes out twice a month. The middle of the month, I feature a guest, healing arts practitioner. Coming up, I have Sacred Geometry, Gail and Gregory Hogue. That's coming out the middle of October. And the beginning of each month is my forecast for the upcoming month. So the end of October will be November's forecast. My October forecast just came out. You can find me at Mystical Messages.
Beautiful. Thank you, sister, for that powerful conversation.
Thank you, Carrie.
Go check her out, everybody. It's like, go to the show notes below and check her out. It's beautiful. Like, subscribe to this podcast if you like us, and leave us a comment. And if you're angry about what I said, that's fine. You can leave a comment. We'll acknowledge you. And, Talking Stick Circle is working here. Okay. Yeah. So love you guys so much. And we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Here come your kisses, everyone. Yay. See you next time, everyone. Bye for now. If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show. Soul Nectar Show. Awaken away to show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar from the source of